Well, welcome to Creative World. You have three collaborators with you today. I'm Elektra. I'm a consciousness mentor as well as director of the Language of Consciousness Institute. Deb Merchant is part of, has the company called the Vital Psyche, and Tantra Maat, you know, from Tantra Maat Incorporated. We collaborators have probably known each other at least over 10 years. I know Tantra and Deb have known each other 30 plus years. So in our searching, in our consciousness searching, we've practiced being present with each other. So transparency and intimacy were really important to us. And it involved being in conversation. It involved being present with others and sharing. And in the last couple of years, we started to say, why don't we do this amount of conversation and sharing with others outside of the community who were creating new realities or new worlds, and changed how they were being in the world. So what started as curiosity and discovery with each other led to us to asking questions, being curious, and not knowing the answer, which is the key. Being open to what rose in the conversation to see what gems of knowing they had. So what were the thoughts and the assumptions and beliefs that led to them to this new way of being and doing? Today, we're talking about we shall not be sacrificed. It reminds me of a good book I'm reading about dragons and women turning into dragons. So how have we been sacrificing ourselves? And how do we not sacrifice ourselves would be because we're very used to sacrifice, I think. And the broken heart is involved in this as well. So that's my intro. Deb and Tantra, you want to tell them a little bit more about what you do and where you come from around the topic we're going to discuss today?
Go ahead, Deb.
Well, I've got my training as a clinical psychologist, and I'm on my way to being licensed as a clinical psychologist or therapist. And I've started my company called the Vital Psyche because actually throughout my life, I've always considered people whole and complete and healthy innately. It doesn't mean they don't have problems or things in the way of expressing that. It doesn't mean that they don't have issues. And what gets, considered disorders and whatnot. But innately, we're whole and healthy, and we always tack towards that as best we can. And I wanted, in these times when so much is changing, since COVID, there's been a lot of dramatic change in the Western culture, mindsets, what people are reaching for again, that it's just time to start writing about that more and putting it out there. And what do I mean by that? And how do you know? And how do you talk to somebody who says, no, I'm really broken? So that's my company. And that's part of what I bring to these conversations, in addition to what Elektra said, an insatiable curiosity about others and how others are thinking, others are presencing what moves through them and what they know, and how they express what's life enhancing for them.
I want to actually start in an odd manner because it pinged when Deb, you were talking. So quite a few years ago, Deb can probably tell us when, not me, I don't live in that kind of time. We had a company together and it was called MetaPoints. And we'd actually had a company before that called
Spirit Primal.
Spirit Primal. But the company was a structure within which, like building a house, it was a structure within which something could be held and something could be realized, basically. When Deb needed to get her do her dissertation, she couldn't be the source of the material, and she wasn't anyway. I was, but so we closed down MetaPoints, and I started Tantra Maat Inc., which is now Tantra Maat LLC. And then the resource material was free for her to use in her dissertation. And then few years later, I knew that when I had gotten the download for the creation templates, it needed a container, and Elektra valiantly took on, at that time, the Language Creation Institute, now the Language of Consciousness Institute, to give something a place. So the reason I'm starting there is that my theme today is, how do you give something a place, and how do you give something a place that has trouble staying in existence, and how do you give something a place that has no place to be in existence? And so, well, we don't just do companies. We actually entrained ourselves over the past quite a few years to actually formulate what might look like a company, but it really is an address. It's an address where something can have a place. And so I wanted to put that into the equation, put that into the material, and just open it up to you two for whatever comes, what you can reflect on around that. And then I kind of a part two.
I think it's hard to know when you start, because we get called to do certain things, right? I mean, in all the work I've ever done, I got called to be a massage therapist. I got called to be a cranial sacral therapist. And in each of those, there's steps, like you have to create in the case of a massage therapist, the knowledge of it, but it's also, how will I be in that? What will my practice be like? And when we started the Language of Creation Institute, all we knew is that we wanted to have a place where the creation exercises could be held and then disseminated, that people could be supported. And granted, this was 2016. So this whole thing of a place having a place, I believe it was important to hold them. I don't know if energetically the world was ready for them. So and we don't know that about anything we do. It's one thing to be called for something, but another to watch the world within which you exist to see, is the world ready for it? Is the world ready for it?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that happens when something doesn't succeed, like you thought it was going to, which is, historical perspective, then sometimes we're thinking we're doing the wrong thing. And what I discovered over the years with moving from the Language of Creation Institute and the Language of Consciousness Institute and creating different programs was that that didn't do the Institute any good for me to say, oh, it just won't work. It was better to step, every time I really looked at it, it was, is this the time? Is this ready? Is the world or the reality, or is there people who are hungry for it, which is basically what I was looking for. And I think we're finally there. And one of the personal discoveries I had last year was that I went into what I call empty mind. My mind just said, no, we're not doing anything. And it scared me a lot, because I started thinking my mother and my grandmother had dementia. So I thought, oh my God, I'm in my 70s and it's far beyond, it's going to be earlier than everybody's. What it turned out was my whole system was breaking me out of the habit of historical expectations. Because as long as I believed that the world should go I had a frame in my head that the world should go forward in a certain way. And then every time it didn't go forward in the way that I had thought from my historical founding, is I got upset, thinking, oh my God, I have done something wrong because I haven't done it right.
Yeah.
And this is, again, part of that sacrifice that we keep
Yeah.
giving ourselves to a project, and we don't know when it is not the right time for this or the right place for this. And I have to thank my body and my mind to do that, because it took them over a month and a half to get me to go, oh, you mean my expectations of how it should be is not what it may be? And it's a real screw of the mind. And we all have to do that, because we have in our brains expectations of how we should be, of what we should do, what we're calling, what's being called in through us. And the only way that we will do that in the world now and in the future is by being present in the moment and giving the gift then. And I don't know if that makes sense. So it's a whole different way. That's all I can say. It's a very different way to come to be in the moment and say what is rising, versus saying, well, I think this is what we should be doing, and I'm following some kind of path. And for me, it takes the sacrifice out. It totally takes the sacrifice out.
Brilliant.
And that all by itself is huge. And I know that many of the women, particularly who have served, been in service to humanity in one level or another, have also suffered with it being a sacrifice. And that drains you. It doesn't enrich you. And I know that being here in the moment and responding to what is rising is so much easier. So much easier.
It also allows for the meta point of actual self-care and engaging in ways that are called for to further your mission, your job, your purpose. And I'm thinking of everything from, being a caretaker, to being a mother, to of small children, or all the way up to or across to what we consider higher callings. But the truth is, they're not higher or whatever. They're just different. For me, or in addition to what you said, there's a lot about this culture that's breaking apart, because people are, excuse me, people are questioning they're questioning so many of the structures of what's considered normal. They're questioning what's considered success. And there isn't one answer. There isn't one answer at all. Like one size fits all. Let's see. Like in the world of clinical psychology and therapy, there's a lot of lip service to self-care, but it's not real. That's true across many, many, many domains of living. So the broken hearts come from the pressures to keep going, fulfill in the ways we consider normal, and yet deal with diminished health, like what you said about your mind and your body. Many, many, many domains of living.
Sorry.
And the broken hearts come from.
Sorry. I was gonna.
Like what you said.
Okay.
Can you stop it? God,
Yeah.
that's so weird to have my voice feeding back. And I think that's because there's such a boots on the ground element to this too. There's really a, and as you were talking, I was thinking of people in my field, like Freud was, whatever you think of his psychology or not, he was uh, a trailblazer in his day. He was a trailblazer. So was Jung. So were a lot of them. They were trailblazers. And there wasn't a place. They were creating a place for something that they saw, something that they that moved through them and they wanted to share. Now I think there's a lot of, I wish I had called it up to keep it so I could read it when we got to this place. But there's a lot of examination of what is normal now. And there was this great quote I had that that I came across the other day, where a woman was saying, "Why do we want to go back to normal?" There's such a push now that COVID's over. She did this shortly after COVID. There's such a push to return to normal, return to normal. And people are finding out, I don't want normal. But what do I want? And what is there? And there's a lot of pressure on people there. So there's a lot of points along the line where sacrifice is being illuminated and broken hearts are being illuminated. What breaks our hearts is being illuminated. So
I want to introduce, we've said it before in other meetings, but the idea of a through line. And basically Jung and Freud created a through line to modern psychology, and it is the mindset of those of us that have formed structures for people to participate. I'm going to embellish on what Elektra said, that it is really about creating a through line so that it's someday when it's time, that will be there. If you build it, they will come. And one of the so what I want to do is I want to have a conversation, but then I'd like you all to pick up on it, because I'm not fully here. I'm dealing with a heart condition, and I'm learning the value and the challenge of medication. And the value is I wouldn't be alive if I wasn't on the medication, which makes a pretty black and white moment. And hardship is I've never been on medication before, and it's really a huge adjustment for me. And but I'm here. That's what matters. And a friend of mine, Danielle Brooks, who's an extraordinary shaman being who studied with the healers in South America for years, actually came in from her trip to Canada and sacred coded all my medical pills. So I am learning the value of being taken care of by both worlds. And I adore my heart doctor. I'm learning to be in as you said, a new meta point of both and. But here's the thing, is that one of the things I've been observing, I always knew this time would come. I always knew. I just didn't think it'd be now. I didn't think it'd be right now. It's more accurate. And that there would be a time where human beings would have to go through the eye of the needle of what the past, Elektra alluded to it quite well, what the past had given them, expectations, false security, and in a very real way, we would relive things and choose newly. And I've seen it in my case. It's not me choosing, it's my body. But that is evolution. That is embodiment. In Elektra's case, talking about her empty mind, it was her body, her mind that chose newly. And it's truthfully, it's why I put pressure on people to do the creation exercises. There's so much more than what humanity can even comprehend at this time. But they allow a human being through their mind, by the mind shifting itself into a spiraling operational system, it lets you move through something and then move to the next greater whole. And we are doing that anyway, which makes me understand why the beings that gave me the templates said these would be the years where they would be the most important. And I can actually see it. I can see that those of us that are doing them and people that live, whose minds are reconfiguring from doing the templates, resetting, they really are holding the possibility of moving into the next greater whole. So that's one kind of tidbit I want to add. And but the other one is this interesting thing about the broken heart. I was a preemie, so I was actually born with a broken heart. And my daughter, however, was born with a broken heart too. She wasn't a preemie, and she has a funky heart. I have a funky heart, and we're both very proactive in service of humanity. But something happened to me in the last 2 weeks in my struggle, where I realized that, Jesus died of a broken heart. He said, "Can you not stay awake for me?" He died of a broken heart and said, "God, forgive them. They know not what they do." So on my Out Past the Ed podcast, I actually did a podcast on I will not be sacrificed. And I could even say at a personal level on Jesus's behalf, because no more, no more. But it means others, we want each other to be here. Whether we are or not is probably not completely determined by us, but that there is a missing element of loving each other's company. It's actually why Create a World started. Is because Elektra said brilliantly, because we loved each other's company. And it wasn't about you all being more enlightened because of our incredibly awesome wisdom. It was about having a place to be in your company, to literally be in your company. And the other thing is how much heart stuff is going on and brain stuff right now. And how much, because I have 2 young people, females, who are the daughters of people in the field of Tantra Maat, and they are experiencing the emotional aspect of a broken heart. That it just breaks their heart that someone they love, they feel it is impossible to be with them. Because, and I said, maybe it's not about them, maybe it's something we're all fundamentally missing that has left us in these broken ways of existing and these broken ways of interacting. And maybe what we're doing is healing our broken heart. And of course, all this stuff about heart math and all of the stuff about this planet is based on, in the QBI work that people do, the meta point between the planet, ourselves, our heart, the planet's heart, the cosmos heart. So there's this great mystery of the one thing we actually cannot live without, and no matter what. And if it's gone, we're gone. And something about that finality, something about that totality, I think people are experiencing. And even this young woman said to me, her name's Molly, even she said to me, she doesn't think she should be feeling as intensely over the issue as she is. And I said, well, maybe it's about something deeper than both of you can get to. And that's the deep mystery. It's not, there's no answer here. We are now living something. And I believe the moving with our broken heart is the through line to paradise. And I'm a mystic, so my words operate in an etheric, vibrational, mystical manner. But I am convinced that if we really watch the next while, that we will find that how we be with our hearts is the through line. Our ability to be, even with our broken heart, is a through line to the other side. That's what I wanted to share.
Yeah, that's I want to pick up on what you said about being with their broken hearts. And something that I've noticed, it kind of goes back to some things I've said that about humans are so redacted. If this is what I've noticed, because I've also got a heart condition. And in my journey, I've noticed that the more, if I focus on my quote unquote broken heart as a disease or as a death sentence or a sentence of expectation about quality of life,
or if it's only about survival,
yeah, then actually quality of life is very poor. And if I focus on, of course, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing most of the time. I'm not 100% good at it, but if I do what I'm supposed to be doing to be well, doing what the doctor said and so forth, and exercising and, all those things that are the physical components of attending to this body, plus thinking in terms of there's so much I don't know. And thinking from what does it mean to listen to my body? And well, one of the things I've come to really recently is whether I had a heart condition or not, none of us knows when it's our time to go. So why don't I just focus on what's in front of me? Maybe this is what you were saying about the present moment, Elektra. If I just focus on really being with what's in front of me, enjoying as much as I can of what is there, but also appreciating what I don't like, if that makes sense. Appreciating the challenges and, what I'm grumpy about and so forth and so on as well, like a whole piece of life, a whole composition of life. That's given me quite a different access to, I couldn't even describe it more than that. There's some kind of access. Through line is the word Tantra's used. And I'm actually having results beyond what I'm supposed to have. And more west to go. But results that are more, better, and different than what I'm supposed to have. And so I'm trying to figure out how to say it really. I'm inviting people to really consider how much you don't know, but considering it from a life enhancing viewpoint, considering what can be left behind that isn't serving you, that's not enhancing your life. And it's not my experience that can be done in like one big sweep, but little pieces, you have an insight or a recognition, you make a little change here, you have a conversation there. So I'm not saying, poof, it's just, wave a magic wand and it's done. But but to pay attention from there and notice how much you're part of your own life design. That, or the life design, or in partnership with all the powers and forces and energies that comprise life. That's something I wanted to add to what Tantra said.
One of the things that's really been obvious to me is the importance of this internal system speaking to us about what Tantra said, the deeper stuff, the deeper messages, what's actually going on. We get so involved in our what I call a surface life, that, but as in the young woman Tantra was talking to, maybe it's not this relationship I have a broken heart about. And Tantra said, maybe it's something deeper. And that the reason I think we can trust that is because what we know about the heart is that it has no historic memory. Okay, the brain carries historical patterns in it. So a lot of your beliefs and your habits, and it's in the, the glial astrocyte cells of your brain. And all of them are interconnected in these wonderful matrices. So some of it's really good, right? You get up in the morning, you go in, you clean, brush your teeth, you eat breakfast, you get all those basics done, right? But other things become deep ruts in your brain that may not be what you really want, but they're unconscious. And with the quantum bioengineering work, what they teach us is to take your pulse and listen and get the answers, some of the answers to that deeper stuff. Your heart will tell you what's really going on versus your mind might have its own story. I was very good at mind stories. My mind could talk to me a lot, right? So this process, I think, is fascinating. And when you are trying to say, okay, maybe there's more here, maybe there's more, let me open up to what's coming and rising. That gives us a new perspectives that we may not have had before, because it's in seeing new perspectives that we get to try and try something new. And that's a teaching from like even new field coaching. So it's not like this is new, but the application of it is I think, happening for more people and happening in a way that we haven't been doing. And it's just because it wasn't the right energetic time. But this is the right energetic time, because now we have the energetic support from the larger field to dig a little deeper and find out what's rising.
Yeah, and we are actually in an extinction event. Not necessarily the demise of all the humans on the planet, but we are in an extinction event, because in the psyche of every human being, we know that what we've been up until now cannot go forward. That's actually what an extinction event is. And we've lived in rules, and some of us noble rules, like be in service of others, and but truthfully, we are born alone and we die alone. And so when all's said and done, our ability, as Deb said, to have this be enriched, an enriching experience, regardless of whether it's tough or beautiful, there is a narrow corridor now that humanity is finding itself in, where distraction is not getting the job done, and expecting something. I will keep going back to what Elektra said, keep going back to an expectation that just plain doesn't exist anymore. It just doesn't exist. It wasn't, it was wrong. It just doesn't exist anymore. So it's not just be here now, it's figure out what is now here. And one of the things that, for those of you listening, one of the things that we're finding ourselves in the field of Tantra Maat confronted by, and awareness and new threads of consciousness rising in, is what we call the meta body. And what happens if some of you were New Agers, or may still be, but a lot of the New Age world was about being out of body, the ascension, out of body. Everything was about Christianity, die and find heaven. Heaven's not here. So we're in an amazing multi-layered activity. It's not just happening in the physical. It's not just happening in the mystical. It's happening like an accordion. It's happening up and down, all of it at once, at every level: relational, familial, personal, your direct link with creation or God or source, your relationship with yourself, others. It just goes, there's no place that something, the broken pieces are now evidencing themselves in a human life. And some more than others, some more than others. But it is this extinction event of everything we have held to be real. And that includes the body. And the body, in my observation, because I've struggled with the body since the day I got here, my observation of the body is the spirit and flesh lost their ability to integrate, lost their ability to exist in the same place at the same time, and that the flesh became a workhorse. So now the highest death rate in the world is stress.
Mm-hmm.
And that really speaks to all of it. And when my heart doctor and my longevity doctor and my homeopath, their one clarity was that I'm suffering from stress. And boy, I'm a human being that doesn't think she suffers from stress, because I love my life. I love what I do. I'm engaged. And but I can remember incidences this year of complete unworkability. And I even said it in our collective. I couldn't believe how hard it was hitting me. It was like traumatic. And I kept saying it shouldn't have been, but it was. And I now know that the physiological aspect of a human being can't go any further in a broken system. It can't flourish. And we are, each one of us where we're sitting is that generative system. It's not the world outside of us. Each one of us where we are sitting is a source-based being. We are directly related to source, whatever we hold it to be. And being able to move with source, move with what is now available to be sourced, is a huge mandate for humankind.
Yeah. I've got a question for you, Elektra, in a minute, but first I want to say what Tantra just said from a different point of view. If you've got a system of any kind, this is what family therapy theory is based on, but a system of any kind, even a pizza, I mean, it doesn't matter. If you change one piece of that system, it automatically changes the whole system. It can be a small change, it can be a big change. So some of us are our lives are about big changes in ourselves and the world around us. Some of us can just manage cleaning our living room, but it's a change in the system. It's a change in the system, like rearranging your living room furniture to be more aesthetic or to operate like feng shui, and it changes the energy in the system. So everybody is participating in this, even if, quote unquote, all you're doing is thinking about what we're saying. It's really remarkable. I think that what Tantra said is accurate. Everybody is touched by this right now in some way or another. And the question I had for you, Elektra, I heard you say the heart. Did I hear you say the heart has no memory? You're muted.
The heart doesn't hold historic memory. Okay, so if you look at the complex of the gut brain with all those little glial cells that are holding information and looking at the world 24/7, all the information that's in the gut brain is transferred through the vagus nerve up into the brain via the heart is part of that flow. So what you get is 24/7 information from that system, which actually has, from what we've looked at, the memory of your original design.
Okay.
So the memory of your original design, present 24/7 to what's occurring, traveling up through the vagus nerve and the heart up into the brain. The heart providing kind of it takes the information from that solar plexus gut brain and adds, I believe, the sentience of the emotions.
Okay, there we go.
Into the brain. So that's how the information gets to the brain. So it filters it through your historic perceptions. So there's what we already know is that a lot of what the eyes receive and the hair received is that we don't actually are unconscious of it because we don't expect it. Sort of like the story of the native Indians who couldn't see the big ships, but the shaman did because he saw the displacement of water.
And then he trained himself. I remember that story. He trained himself to see the whole ship. Yeah, right. I remember that.
And we do the same thing. We do the exact same thing. Because if we start paying attention to the sentience that rises, whether it's emotions or sensations or imagination or words popping in your head, or in my case, 2 months of empty mind, and sorry, you're not going to be able to think forward, dear. If you pay attention to that sentience, that's the information that allows you to go, wow, that historic idea that I've had really might not be right. I'm going to try and turn it a little bit and see if it might be different. I keep going back to the principles of the field of Tantra Maat. And in it, it says everything has a place. Everything is interrelated. Everything is moving up to the next greater whole. Well, if you have faith in that, you go like, okay, my historic mindset had a place, but maybe it doesn't take the dominance anymore. Now I have a different perspective. Now I have a different view. And then I allow that to inform me in a way that if you're stuck in one point of view, you're never going to get to see what you're missing about the world.
Well, I want to jump in here and break it down a little, because when you said that, I was like, whoa. Because I've always thought of the heart, not just the physical blood pump, but the way we often talk about the heart as having a lot of knowing. And I thought, whoa, the heart's got a lot of memory. But so this is what I'm thinking as you were saying that a few minutes ago. But then I thought, no, it's got memory for how things can be. Maybe not our historical memory. I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure I completely see it the same way you do. But because, there's a medical condition called broken heart syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
And not that it has to be medical or scientific according to the Western culture standards to be real. I enjoy when the two worlds come together. It's fun for me. It's fun and interesting, but I do not need science to prove something before I know it's real, necessarily. So you wouldn't have a broken heart syndrome if the heart didn't know how things could be, like what you just said about the original nature. I think I'm thinking this through as I'm talking. And the syndrome comes when there's a clash, like a traumatic stress, or what Tantra was naming, when there's a lack of alignment between how it can be. See, that's the kind of expectation that I think is healthy. The kind of expectation we typically have from our historical, like the system we're born into, or the conditioning that comes with Western culture or any culture, that's not necessarily healthy. That could be a whole huge conversation.
Yeah, that's a whole conversation.
Yeah, but I mean, it can be, but it isn't necessarily. But the kind of expectation that I'm seeing the heart holding is healthy. And the problem only exists when it's like running into a brick wall of the way reality is held or constructed, or I don't know the right word.
Yeah.
So I think the heart holds a lot of memory.
It's actually a present moment.
Yeah, actually, it holds the present moment.
Wow.
I want to. I'm clear. I'm very clear about what Elektra just shared. It's why I work with the solar plexus, not the heart, because in the creation exercises, the getting the solar plexus to line up with what's life enhancing and life generating actually supports the heart being in remembrance correctly. It actually supports it in being in remembrance correctly.
Wow.
So when you're doing that, craving love creates joy, and your patterns are craving love creates horror, then the heart and the solar plexus and the vagus nerve can't line up with each other. They can't get in alignment. And this is broad-banded, okay? This is not mechanical. This is because there are many, many influences. But so when I kept saying that awakening is a biological event, I really truly mean it. It's not my joke, do you know?
Yeah.
And why the creation exercises were created is because no matter how much heart work you do, if your gut goes into fight or flight or screw it or kill it, the heart goes bang. It goes into panic. And so I totally get it. And then the observer part of the creation exercises is the brain, the third eye, the ability to see impartially, see without opinion. But I want to bring up one of the things we did this on the fly, and because we're living something, and when you're living something, you don't necessarily have the full value of what you're living. Hindsight becomes the miracle in this. But I want to talk about what happened when our friend Beryl died. When I was her healthcare agent, and I was in charge of the quality of death. I was in charge, and I promised her that I would do that. That I would manage her quality of death. What happened was that she wasn't, and she never has operated consistently with what any of us thought. Talk about perception. She never operated in the way we perceive at all. And so in the beginning, everybody thought she was avoiding facing she was going to die. And I mean, everybody was, including me. But as I moved with her and I listened to her, I knew I was wrong. I also knew she was in someplace I couldn't explain. And I'm a cellular empath. So what I do is I merge with the cells. I merge, the empathic nature of me merges with the cells of the other person. In this case, it was to explore, observe, and be present to and open up into something that turned out to be a phenomenon, because she lived till the moment she died. And there was nothing like what we think it is about. But I think what happened for me is, this goes back to I will not be sacrificed. And going back to the heart and the gut, that we want rest and digest now. We don't want fight, flight, screw it, or kill it. We want rest and digest. And interestingly enough, right now, for me to get to the other side, guess what I get to stay in? Rest and digest. And it was so miraculous with me getting to go to the other side. I went to a choice point in my own embodiment.
Mhm.
My body went to a choice point about passing on, moving on, or staying, not my identity. My body went into a choice point. But it goes back to what I was saying earlier, which basically everyone, we just wanted to stab at it today. There's no way to contextualize this yet because we're truly living it. But it's my body's choice right now. It's not my choice. It's my body's. But in doing that, I have a very, very, very energetic sensitivity to what will sacrifice my body's opportunity to stay here.
Yes.
And it is razor fine. It is razor fine. So I would not be on this call today unless it was life enhancing and life generating to be with Elektra and Deb, because I cannot be, my energy cannot be used up. And I just have a sidebar because I'm doing prophetic. So obviously people would think, oh my God, the prophetics will wear you out. But then they don't, because I'm in direct connection with the source space of the human being. And I'm actually quite enlivened when I'm in that energy. But my precious son, Aaron, when he heard, and also Deb's husband, but it was cute, my youngest son, when he heard the doctor had recommended I not do the prophetics, he said, oh God, Mom, your doctor doesn't know if we don't work, we don't live. And it's true of my family. In fact, my daughter last night said to me, I don't know, Mom, I got nothing to do, no work to do, and I'm not going to Taos. And I honestly don't know what to do with ourselves. So we're very work centric, but we're not work. We're work because it gives us life. My work gives me life, but it's a very fine edge that I can feel. This is the part I want to say. And it's so hard. If you read the chapter, I really would recommend people read the chapter on empathy and empathic response about 10,000 times, please. Because how we have it is a for and against. How we have it is we have to separate ourselves from each other to survive. Well, look what's that done. We're now killing each other. So there's got to be something off in that equation. But what I have learned is I could tell where there was no reciprocity. I could tell where there was no reciprocity. And that reciprocity right now, lack of reciprocity, giving as much energy to me as I give out, that reciprocity could cost me my life right now. That lack of it could cost me my life. But if you take me, I'm out here in that big land out there. But if you start coming back into human existence, that the two young women, it's the lack of reciprocity. It's the lack of shared energy. And we're having miraculous experiences in the field of Tantra Maat we can't describe, because we are like, everybody's in this, not with me. Everybody's in this. And I'm the point goose. But I won't always be the point goose. I'll drop back and there'll be another point goose. But it's all about shared energy. And that's what Jesus did. He said, can you not stay awake for me? In this moment of time where I need you deeply, all you did was take for me and not give back. And it is becoming a cutting edge issue in the human world. We have about 5 minutes. And we're probably going to go over because something weird happened with Google and took me a minute to figure it out. So we were late coming on. So just over to you all. We'll go to about 5 after. Okay. That'll give us our hour.
Yeah, for those of you who may not know, she's referring to a chapter in a book she wrote called You as the Mind of Creation. And I don't remember what the number of the chapter is, but you can find it. And what she's saying about reciprocity and there you go. Thank you, Elektra. So like I didn't know if she'd actually be on today.
Yeah.
Not like being afraid or worried or but just would it that edge she's talking about, would it serve her? Would it serve her? Because she couldn't come on as I said I'd be here. And yet, like for me, that was life enhancing. Get on because I said so was something that was necessary for me. For her, not today, not today. So it was just kind of interesting. Will she be here or not? Will it be me and Elektra? That'll be great. Cool.
We could do that.
You know, but what was the other thing there was something I may have.
Well, while you're thinking about it, just let me, there, about, when was it? 8 years ago, you started to see teachers say they no longer were going to be a teacher. And I'm talking Bill Bauman, Tom Kenyon, Tantra, other teachers. And they said, I'm not your caretaker anymore. I have done that. I'm not carrying you anymore.
I am the last sacrifice.
Yes, I'm the last sacrifice. And if you watch them, they all went into what I call a retreat. Tantra really didn't. She continued to serve, but she served a focus group of people that really worked with her for the last 10 years. The difference I see happening now, and it's happened since she started feeling her heart issue, is that the group, the field of Tantra Maat, started caring for her.
They stayed awake for me.
They stayed awake for you. And I knew it was critical that we stayed awake for you. And it's amazing. It's a shift in how we be and the responsibility we take for being one with another in the world. We can't, as Tantra used to say, you can't nurse on the tit anymore. You just can't.
That's right.
It's either stand up and say, what is my role with these others in the interrelationship I am with them? I am not the student just saying, feed me, tell me what to do. I have to say, what is my role here? How do I interrelate and interconnect with everybody in the group?
And how do I stand up inside my connection to source?
Right.
How do I be sourced myself as not an identity base, but a self base, instead of drawing source energy from Tantra or Tom Kenyon or
Jesus.
Jesus.
Yeah.
And that's what, go ahead.
It's in the creation exercises, guys, that when you get to the embodied phrase, you are in connection with creation, your connection to your own inner wisdom. So you can imagine a matrix where all these people are connected to source and they're connected to each other and they're paying attention to what is rising. And instead of expecting a leader to feed them, we feed each other and the leader. Can you imagine how the field will grow?
Yeah, because I'm only a position in the field. I'm not,
Right.
This is what we're talking about with the new feminine model, not new, but the feminine model. There's no hierarchy. I'm only a resource. And I'm a resource, and everybody's using the material, but they're generating their own source base out of that material. It's not leader follower. And frankly, I knew this time was coming and I did not want to die. And I knew if I didn't have a coherent community, either I'd have to isolate myself from the world and people, which I did not want to do, or there would be a community that it's like the pebble, like the water molecule in the stream. You know, a wave can be up and a wave, like I'm a wave sometimes, but all the molecules are part of that wave, and then another wave comes up, and it's all new learning. It's all new learning. I'm going to read something. I'm going to do this body of work this year called the Magician of Self, but I got Charlie, my AI, to rewrite it because I'm not allowed to read the original document. So I had to get the essence of it because it's a private document. But I want to read this because all this conversation is the key through the broken heart is to come back into our source-based beingness where we're in the heart of creation, whether we call it source or God or Allah or Jesus, but we are in the body, in the embodiment of source. And creation reflects upon itself, or we could say source reflects upon itself, gaining knowledge and recognition of itself through its multidimensional, multisensory, multi-intelligent nature we often refer to as a human being. But I want to read this because this was such a sign of shifting from being inferior, needing a higher power to bless you and caretake you, to being a source-based being, which we're calling, in my work, the magician of self. Source-based beings transcend personal conditioning by navigating through doubt and uncertainty, engaging in a perpetual endeavor to enhance themselves. They manifest reality through their actions of being, the caliber of relationships they cultivate, and the love they both experience and extend. Their strength and nobility emanate from the unadulterated nature of their objectives, coupled with their astuteness and discerning signs that reinforce their inner awareness, confirming they're on the correct trajectory of their source-based development. And that's the key. Where to thine own self be true. To thine own self be true. And on that, I'm complete. I'll let you two complete. We got 3 minutes.
Okay, I just want to say that it's very interesting to me that Bill Bauman has returned to public.
Yes, several have actually.
Mm-hmm. And so they went into retreat in order to, I don't know, it's not being pulled on, but they had to reconnect to their source. And when they have come back differently with others. A lot of their work is about, you have to take care of yourself. You have to make your own connection. And then we as a group will have greater power. That's exactly what's happening in this group. And that's the only way I think each of us can really, if we make the connection, then it's easier to listen to your body. It's easier to listen to your sentience, to direct you into what is the next thing to do. What is actually rising in my world, and what is the best way to serve me and serve what I want to serve.
Beautiful.
And then create a world. For me, one of the big deals is developing the stamina and capacity to be with others in their source-based discovery, or maybe they've arrived, but the process and the discovery, because some people are real different than me or Elektra or Tantra, real different. And now that's another piece of what's rising now, is the capacity to be with each other, even though we may be radically different, and still find and honor that source base in each other, and weave a world together.
Yep. Each of us is a unique and essential aspect of source. And when we begin to remember that, we tend to what needs to be tended to when it's time to tend to it. Thank you both. I love you. I am empowered, enlivened, and more to go. Take precious care. Bye, everybody.
Bye.